Hey everybody, it's once again time for another top 5 video. The last one was a bit less awful than what I've done before, but this one will actually be good, I promise. 2015 might have been an important year that saw a change in perception of certain industry trends. For some time now, gamers have been making known their opinions on pre-orders, single-player content, broken products, yearly sequels, and paid DLC. However, it felt like this year, developers and publishers finally began to take notice. Not all of them, but hopefully enough to make a difference. Beyond the headlines though, this was also a great year for games. There were some games that I had a lot of fun playing, but just couldn't put on the list. It just goes to show how terrific the top 5 are. These are my favorite games of 2015. To be honest, I had never finished a Metal Gear Solid game before The Phantom Pain. Hideo Kojima's last MGS game is much more accessible, both in terms of story and gameplay. The open world stealth mechanics allow players to approach missions however they want. They can go into an area guns blazing or sneak in through a hidden entrance. Snake can also capture enemy soldiers and add them to his own army. And as the game progresses, a ton of infiltration options open up, making the gameplay incredibly deep. The attention to detail in this game rivals even GTA 5 and The Last of Us. After a thrilling and mysterious opening, the narrative begins to reveal itself slowly. The villain Skullface has a plan to destroy the world, and Snake has to figure out what it is and stop him. Unfortunately, there are a few surprises along the way, and a lot of missions feel like filler. The Phantom Pain's biggest mistake, however, is the depiction of the game's only female character, Quiet. She feels more like an object than a person. She wears minimal clothing, does whatever Snake tells her to, and never speaks. The way the game explains this is just convoluted. Check out the video in the description for more on this topic. If judged on gameplay alone, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain might be my favorite game of the year, but it gets brought down by a slow story and an archaic representation of women. Rise of the Tomb Raider is Lara Croft's best game yet. After the last entry in the rebooted series, she is confronted with the knowledge that the impossible might be real. Lara begins to investigate the research on immortality that her academically disgraced father worked on before he died. This leads her to the lost city of Kitezh and a powerful organization called Trinity. Redeeming her father and protecting the secret of everlasting life will bring Lara one step closer to her destiny.
You won't get far without me.
You don't know how far I've come.
Once again, players can explore an open environment, hunt animals, gather resources, upgrade equipment, find treasures, and solve intricate puzzles in tombs. Stealth mechanics are improved, allowing players to effectively clear out rooms of enemies without anyone knowing. Combat is fast and brutal, but takes a backseat to exploration and puzzle solving. Very few concepts are repeated, while new mechanics are constantly added. As a result, each new puzzle feels fresh. And with vastly updated graphics, this is one of the best looking games on consoles right now. Rise of the Tomb Raider does exactly what a great sequel should do. Take everything that was good about the predecessor and improve it. I'm excited to see how developer Crystal Dynamics will top it in their next game. It's been 4 years since the last game developed by Bethesda, so fans were understandably hyped about Fallout 4's release in 2015. While some were disappointed with the final product, I had a blast playing Fallout 4, pouring more than 100 hours into the game. Players once again are a vault dweller, emerging to the surface hundreds of years after nuclear war has destroyed most of the world. They'll have to survive the dangerous wastelands of Boston and contend with a mysterious group called the Institute to track down their family. The journey leads through Massachusetts landmarks like Fenway Park, the Old State House, and Bunker Hill. For the most part, gameplay is nearly identical to Fallout 3 and New Vegas. But there are some changes. Combat is much smoother, fixing what was perhaps the biggest weakness of previous entries. I found that I actually preferred manual aiming over the time-slowing VAT system. For the first time, the player character has a voice, an addition that I've long wanted from a Bethesda game.
I'm here on my own.
Freelance, huh? Alright. Come on in, but no gunfire.
The biggest change, however, is the inclusion of settlements. Players are able to form their own communities, attract settlers, set up shops and defenses, create supply lines, and build structures from the ground up. Though settlements are a completely optional feature, I was constantly checking up on my settlers to make sure they were happy and safe. There's so much to do, and it's just too easy to play Fallout 4 for hours on end without realizing it. Bethesda shows that it can still make games that are impossible to put down. Undertale snuck in out of nowhere to steal the spotlight from this year's biggest games. Largely developed by one person, Toby Fox, with a $50,000 budget and retro 16-bit graphics, this game manages to beat the multi-million-dollar productions at creating something different. In Undertale, players are a human child stuck in a world of monsters. How far would they be willing to go to get home? The game knows what longtime players expect from typical role-playing games and uses those expectations to turn the genre on its head. In most RPGs, players slay thousands of monsters and the people call them heroes. Monsters in Undertale, however, are not inherently evil. Some are nice, some are misunderstood, and some are just doing what they believe is best. Players can choose to kill the monsters that attack them, or they can find a more peaceful resolution. Violence isn't the only answer. Combat involves playing a dodging minigame that gets increasingly difficult as monsters get tougher, but the narrative truly drives the game. Undertale's story is sometimes heartbreaking, sometimes uplifting, and frequently hilarious. It's rare to see a game so effective at creating an emotional response from the player, and I've definitely never played a game that made me laugh out loud as often as this one did. There are a myriad of wonderfully surprising moments in the game that are made possible by its self-awareness. This deconstruction of the RPG is both a love letter to the genre and one of the best examples of the genre. Undertale is the most important and innovative game that I played in 2015, and the music is amazing. And my favorite game of 2015 was The Witcher 3. In the supposed final chapter of the Witcher series, Geralt of Rivia faces his toughest journey yet. His former student, a girl named Ciri, is being pursued by an unstoppable magical army called the Wild Hunt. In order to find her and defeat the hunt, Geralt will need all the help he can get. The Witcher 3 brings back the strategic combat and difficult choices of games past and wraps it all in a gorgeous open world. Enemies deal a lot of damage, so players have to correctly time dodges and blocks and use their magic and potions to survive encounters. The Witcher 3 also features one of the best minigames I've ever played, Gwent. It's an optional but addictive card game that demands calculated planning as well as a carefully constructed deck to win. I became obsessed with playing against anyone I could find to collect more rare cards to improve my deck. More importantly, The Witcher 3 has an exciting, well-paced narrative that assembles a great cast of characters, including Vizimir, Yennefer, Triss, and Ciri herself. These aren't flat, one-note caricatures either. They are complex, well-thought-out people. For example, Yennefer seemed rude at first, but over time I began to see the gold heart beneath her rough exterior. She is extremely loyal to those she loves and would cross any line for them. There are dozens more three-dimensional characters who help make the world believable. And this is a bleak, cruel world that forces players to make morally questionable decisions. There are a few right choices in The Witcher 3. Mostly there are bad ones, and then there are worse ones. The best intentions might backfire, and even seemingly small actions can have devastating consequences down the road.
Remember, the future hinges on the success of this mission. The future of Temeria. The future of the North.
I know. I'll try not to fuck it up. See ya.
Developer CD Projekt Red treats players like adults, presenting mature subject matters while making nothing easy, just like life. That's what makes Witcher 3 the best game of the year, because it compels players to claw through the darkness in hope of finding light on the other side.